Hi and welcome to this tutorial on the MLA format. MLA stands for the Modern Language Association, and that is the group of people who got together at one point and decided we are going to have one uniform format for all of the papers out there. And that worked for everyone except for psychologists. So if you're writing a paper for psychology, you might have a slightly different format. But for everybody else, it's the MLA. So let's figure out what this is all about. And a place to begin is to ask yourself these questions to see what you know about the format. Okay, let's run through these, and I encourage you to write down your answers. Number one, the font. What do you know about that? What size and what style? Spacing, number two. How much spacing should there be from line to line and from paragraph to paragraph? Margins. How much space should be on all four sides of your text? Alignment. Should the margin on the right side be straight up and down? 5. What about the top right of each page? What goes on the top right of each page and where exactly? What about the very first page, the top left of that page? What information do you want and in what order? The title. What format do you need to keep in mind when writing your title? And finally, paragraphs. How much do you indent each paragraph? Should there be any extra space as you go from one paragraph to the next? Rather than go through each of these and give the answers now, I'm going to walk us through an actual document and point these things out in the tutorial. Well, this document that I pulled up might be a little harsh on your eyes, but need to make the point that it is white paper and you have black ink on it. Now let's look at what's going on with the MLA format here, beginning with the font. You'll see that everywhere, from the very top to the very bottom, the size of the font is 12. As for the style, it's an ordinary one, Times New Roman, Arial. What you don't want is anything peculiar like Gothic. As for the spacing, the margins, well, it's all 1 inch all the way around, and it's automatically set this way. 1 inch on the top, on the left, on the right, and on the bottom. Now notice that up here, this information, your name and the page number, this is a 1/2 inch down. In order to do that, you have to go into the header and the footer. Related to this is the alignment, the justification. On the left side, you can't help it. It's straight up and down. But on the right side, notice that it's not straight up and down. And there is a setting for you to do that, but you don't want it. You want it to be ragged. That's the name they give. And you can see it's uneven on the right side. And the reason for this is that if it were justified, if it were all straight up and down, it would create unusual spacing within the line. That's the logic behind it. So again, the right side, have it be ragged. Just have it scroll right over onto the next line. And now a word on the spacing. From the very top all the way down to the bottom, it's double spaced. Notice a couple of things in particular as you go from the date down to this title here, that also is double spaced. As you go from the title to the first line of the text, it also is double spaced. As you go from one paragraph to the next, that also is double spaced. Speaking of paragraphs, let me make the point that you indent each paragraph a 1/2 inch. Or really you just hit the tab and it's already a default setting to move you in 1/2 inch. Now let's look at what goes on the very top of the first page. And let's look at the top right over here. And you'll notice that it is the last name and then the page. On the next page, it'll be Perry 2. On the third page, Perry 3, etc. Now let's go over to the top left, and you'll see this information here. First, it's your name. Then it's the teacher's name, and you do want to use the teacher's title. Then it's the class. then it's the date. You can use this form of the date or the international form 17 October 2011 with no commas. Now remember, this is all double spaced. Now let's look at the title. And in this case, there's 2 lines of it. The title here is There's Beauty in Death, an in-depth analysis of the suicide attempt scene from Citizen Kane. So this first line, actually let me point this out first of all, that notice the words that are capitalized, the first letter of significant words, that's the first line and the second line. Notice that not every letter is capitalized, not everything is in underlined or in black or some kind of heightened form. No, it's the usual print, the usual font, usual rules are at play in the title. Now, if you are going to use this 2-level form of title, and it's a very good form, at the end of that first line is a colon. And once again, everything is double spaced. You just hit the return and you want the uniform spacing from top to bottom. Quite often I'll see quadruple spacing or a lot of white space above the title and below the title, but really you don't want that. And that really is it. I'm going to scroll down just so you can see the uniformity of this format. Second page, everything is the same. Notice that the student's name and page number is up on top, but everything remains the same. Now let's return to this page of questions that we started the tutorial with, and you want to review any of your answers now. All right, so I will give the topic and then I will provide the answer. The font, the size and the style, the spacing, how much should there be from line to line, paragraph to paragraph? Margins, how much on all 4 sides? Alignment, what about the right side? Should it be straight up and down? The top right of the page, what goes on the top right? And where exactly? The top left, what goes up there and in what order? The title, what do we need to keep in mind when you're writing the title? And finally, paragraphs. What do you know about indenting each paragraph? And what about the spacing as you go from one paragraph to the next? And that's it for this tutorial on the MLA format, a standardized set of guidelines that apply to just about all of the papers you'll be writing here in college. Okay, hope this has been clear and has helped you out. Bye-bye.